Hey everybody, what's going on? Hope you folks are doing alright. And welcome to another episode of Megaman's Legends. And here I have tonight, I have one of my besties. Very well known for a certain year, which is 1992. And she is right now the rising star of the Third Strike team in Texas with her and Elena. And obviously she's a pretty amazing person. I would like to introduce you all to Tigerlily92. What is going on, Lauren?
Hi, Megaman. Thank you for the introduction. That made me really happy.
No
Very
problem.
nice thing.
I figured the introduction is I think it's pretty cool that that introduction has to say pause because obviously you are like, I would say you are like one of the rising talents in the Third Strike scene, of course. And obviously you've been putting in a lot of time in you've been putting a lot of time in 3S. I mean, there was a time that you did ST, and then you kind of moved on from that to 3S, and you've been making some moments and everything. So I find it pretty awesome that you've been doing that.
Yeah. I mean, it it really didn't occur to me for a long time that I would even be focused on like one or two fighting games at once. But I don't know. I just wanted to, I guess, put another thing on my bucket list for something that I wanted to sit as like almost like on a resume. Like, I did this and I achieved this and I'm making progress in this. It's really nice.
I respect that. I do respect that answer. Having a bucket list is pretty cool, though. Pretty much what you want to achieve and what you want to do. But we're gonna actually bring that up later on, anyway, in this conversation. So, tell me about yourself. What is the origin story of Tigerlily1992? When did you started gaming?
Oh, that's actually one of my favorite stories to tell. And it can give you a perspective of how my personality is now and why I love certain uh, game genres that I do. So I'd say it started probably like very late 90s, early 2000s. I grew up in Dallas, and hence 92. I was born in 92. So yeah, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and I have only one sibling. That is my brother Steven. Love him to death. He is 6 years older than me. So of course, me being the little sister, I had to bug him and pester him and had to join him on every little thing he was doing. Um, so funny enough, me and him used to share a room, I think until he started high school, and he moved on over to our living room in that house. That was his own room, and then I got to keep the bedroom that we shared. Um, so it was a weird transition for me to go from basically me and him being roommates to having to like walk all the way to the living room to go see him. Anyways, so he had, as far as back as I can remember, he had a lot of different game systems. The earliest one I remember the most was the Sega Genesis, and probably the first game that I can recall trying to play was the original Mortal Kombat. And there's always a funny story I tell with this because I can't really say how old I was. I know I was very young, but I have like very vivid memories of the graphics and the music and just all the colors, and I thought it was a really sick game. But my mom, uh, she would monitor, what we were playing, and she saw that there was, a lot of blood content in it. And even though it was okay for my brother to play with that, it wasn't okay for me, according to her. So she had to tell him that anytime I wanted to play, he had to turn the blood off. And I was actually, I remember being really upset about that. Because I was like, this just ruins, like, the whole experience of this game. Like, what's the point? So yeah, that was my first fighting game that I remember. And unfortunately, I can't remember, like, the characters I used and stuff like that. I do remember I just button mashed because, of course, I was like maybe 7 or 8. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. um, but yeah, it started with me bumming off my brother on his game consoles. So we played a lot of Mortal Kombat on the Genesis, and of course a lot of Sonic. And then when he got his PlayStation 1, that's when I remember that era the most, because I would play a lot of his games that he had on that system. So between him and my cousin, who actually lived directly behind me, I grew up bumming off both of their consoles. So him and my cousin, they both had copies of Tekken 3. And I remember that one a lot because I was unfortunately the type of person who did pick Eddie Gordo a lot and would spam all the moves. And yeah, that was probably my second fighting game I played the most. But besides from like fighting games, the other ones I grew up playing on the PlayStation were a lot of the NBA Live games. Played a lot of NBA Street. I was actually very much into sports games, so fighting games were definitely my first love, and then sports games were actually my second. It's very different nowadays, but I grew up on that. Tomb Raider was a big thing. Kingdom Hearts. I remember my brother rented it from Blockbuster. I was just watching him play the whole time. And moving on to non-console games, I was very influenced by arcade scenes because I grew up going to this place called Bronco Bowl. If you're from Oak Cliff, you know.
Yeah.
It was. Oh, you do? Sweet. That place was cool. I remember. I have little memory of it, but I remember going to the arcade the most in there. And I was really sad when they got replaced by a stupid Home Depot. So sad. But there was, on that same street, there was a Minyard's grocery store. Those aren't around anymore either. But me and my cousin, our grandparents would take us there a lot. Because we actually all lived in the very same neighborhood. So there was my house, 2 doors down were my grandma and grandpa, my mom's parents. And then right behind us was my mom's brother, his wife, and my cousin Jonathan. So Jonathan was basically like a second brother to me. We're the same age. So when we'd go to Minyard's, they had 2 cabinets. They had Marvel vs. Capcom 2. That was my first intro into the Marvel vs. series. And the one next to it was a Metal Slug game. Which one it was, I can't tell you. I don't remember. But I do remember putting a shitload of quarters in the Marvel vs. 2 cabinet. And that was my introduction to who winds up being one of my favorite waifus of all time, Morrigan from Darkstalkers, aka Vampire Savior. I remember I always had to have her on my team, and I had Venom because I thought he was just really cool in that game, and he had really cool moveset, and I can't remember my third pick, unfortunately, but I always picked Morrigan, Venom, and then a random third as my team. But me and my cousin, every time we go to the store, we would be on that for a very long time until our parents or our grandparents were done shopping. So that's like one of my big favorite memories of like arcade cabinets. Um, and then I'd say a few years later, I wasn't as big into fighting games anymore. Mostly because uh, my brother kind of grew out of consoles after a while, and the only other person I would play sometimes is my cousin. But same thing, he kind of grew out of it too. And then there's like, well, I didn't have my own console at all um, until I want to say when I was 11. I got my first Game Boy. I got the Game Boy SP, and it was the one I exactly wanted because I remember I went to Toys R Us with my mom and dad, and they had the game section, right? And they had the Game Boy SP. It was a lime green color, and it came with a copy of Donkey Kong Country, which I never played before, like at all. Um, Safe to say, I actually wasn't much of a Nintendo kid when I grew up because my brother didn't have that because he had Genesis. And the only Nintendo games I would play were like for the 64. I played a lot of Smash Bros. And Mario Kart. That would be at like friends' houses. Um, so this was technically my first console to myself, my first portable one, and it came with Donkey Kong Country, and I got it Christmas morning. I was like super stoked. I was like over the moon about it, and I played the crap out of that game. So that's actually the first video game I ever beat by myself. It took a long time to beat too, because yeah, there were some stages I got stuck on. Um, but yeah, I would bring that everywhere. I brought it to family parties. I brought it to church. I brought it to just friends' houses. I'd just be up in my room playing through the whole night. It was like my favorite thing ever. I do still have it. It's probably dead by now. But it is around here. I actually see it right now. It's right across from me. Um, yeah, and so yeah, I was definitely a big fighting gamer for a good chunk of my childhood. And then, like I said, I've got into more portable based games. I actually never played any fighting game on a portable system until high school. But I guess we can probably get into that later. But yeah, so after that, the next big console for me was the Wii, and everyone was obsessed with that. Like that's the only game system that I played with my family because everyone loved Wii Sports. Everyone loved bowling and baseball. So that's what I was playing a lot. But once again, that was at other people's houses. The only console I still just had for myself was my PSP. But I played like mostly platformers on there. Yeah, the other games I got on there was like Donkey Kong Country 2, which I also beat over and over again. It's very replayable, so it was the first one. And then some other odd games like some Harry Potter games and Mario Pinball Land, which was really fun. So flash forward to high school, about 11th grade. I'm not much of a gamer anymore. I haven't really played much games. Like I didn't really have that gamer lifestyle as much from the time I got my PSP to playing the Wii with some friends, and then up to then, the most I would play honestly was like Guitar Hero 3, which is still one of the best games ever. I would play that at friends' houses. But yeah, my brother didn't have any new gen consoles. He only ever had a Genesis and a PS1 and PS2. And after that, he never collected any other systems, so I couldn't bum off him. I'd have to rely on friends that I made in school to play these newer gen consoles. I just recall mainly playing Guitar Hero. So around 11th grade, this guy I'm dating, he is a big nerd and also a gamer too. So he had a 360 and he had a Wii. And one of our friends that we would often go to his house to play video games, he had Street Fighter 4, Vanilla Street Fighter 4. That was actually my first Street Fighter game ever. As far as I can remember, I've never played any of the ones before that. But I knew of Street Fighter. Everyone knew about it. But that I will say that was my first Street Fighter game. Unfortunately, I thought it was good back then. So yeah, it wasn't till towards like end of 11th grade and then senior years when I got really back into fighting games. I got introduced to Street Fighter. I got introduced once again to Mortal Kombat, but it was, of course, one of my favorite personal ones, Mortal Kombat 9. I remember going to the midnight release of that, and they had the game out for people to play, and I remember picking Jade and kicking everyone's ass. And of course, I'm the only girl there, so a lot of the guys are just looking at me funny, like, "Oh wow, you know how to play?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure," but I'm like, "I'm just button mashing, bro. I don't know what I'm doing." But yeah, I went to the midnight release of that, and I played the shit out of that when it came out. And the other big game, fighting game that I also got heavy into was Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So this was before Ultimate Marvel came out. But I played the crap out of that one so much, and that one held a really special place in my heart because, like I said, I grew up playing Marvel 2 with my cousin at the grocery store. So it felt like I was kind of in that time again while playing Marvel 3. And the cool thing about getting into Marvel 3 is I was introduced to a lot of Capcom characters I've never heard of. Like, I didn't know who Beautiful Joe was. I didn't know who Amaterasu was. All these characters. So I would say I definitely got educated while playing that game. And also, I just remembered I had my second portable console. I had a PSP, second hand. Unfortunately the disk drive would pop open, so I always had to put a piece of tape over it so the disk wouldn't pop out while I'm playing. It wasn't the greatest. It was not in good shape, but it did its thing. So I played Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection very religiously on that, and I also played Mortal Kombat Unchained, which is technically Deception, which is actually my top favorite Mortal Kombat game ever. Because Conquest mode is the shit. I hope they bring that back somehow eventually.
Yeah, Deception. I wholeheartedly love Deception. That's one of my favorite Mortal Kombat games. That besides UMK3 and Trilogy, but that one holds a very special place in my heart because Conquest mode was amazing. Then it had combat chess as well.
Yeah,
and then also not only combat chess, they actually had like a lot of things that was in that game, which was kind of incredible. So
yeah,
I feel like the Conquest mode was like probably the most goated addition that they added, even though I mean Shinjinko was wild broken anyway, but on top of the fact that he can learn other people's moves and then combine it, it was kind of interesting to say the least though.
Yeah, like I remember playing all of that and I adored it, and then I got Mortal Kombat Armageddon, which in my personal opinion is one of the worst Mortal Kombat games. But I digress. I thought it had a conquest mode itself. I only got into like maybe the first 10 minutes, and then I quit because it just wasn't the same. It didn't hit the same. I didn't care for these main characters that we were playing as, so I never finished it. I don't know. Nothing can really top Deception's conquest mode. Like, even with the bad voice acting and just lame lines and all that, it still was a really good story. And I actually rewatched. There's a guy I follow on YouTube called 616 Entertainment, He does a lot of Mortal Kombat content, and he actually did a whole playthrough of Conquest mode. And I actually finished watching that a few weeks ago. He like had a whole playlist of it, and I'm like, wow, like I didn't remember, like I couldn't even remember how bad like the dialogue was, but still, it still holds up as a good, basically story mode for the game. And like this gets into Mortal Kombat 9 when I played the story mode in that, and that was a thing for me is I did not play too many story modes on fighting games. Um, like at least like the main story mode. Like I know you have your arcade mode, which has like each character's individual stories and their endings, and I did some of that for like Tekken. But for MK9, um, it basically told the story of the first three games just in one game. And as someone who didn't play a lot of Mortal Kombat 2 or 3, it was really like a good kind of like um, TLDR of the stories of the first three games. And I loved that mode a lot. And the funny thing was, when I played Shang Tsung at the end, not Shang Tsung, Shao Kahn, it didn't take me as long as I thought it would to beat him. He actually felt pretty easy, and I know people do say like they differ from that. They said it was pretty hard. I'm like, okay, maybe it's just me. I don't know, but when I see people play him like the original games, I'm like, yeah, that was harder. um, but so that, and then I played MKX's story, which I love. Like that's one thing I can give Mortal Kombat credit for is at least after 9 happened, like their stories are really good and very cohesive. And
So, I have something to say about that. I think the stories are good, but their timeline sucks. That's the problem.
yeah, I can't really say for sure because I never finished playing MK11 story. I kind of dropped it off, and it wasn't cause like I was bored or anything. I had other stuff I was playing, so I didn't get to finish. But I heard the rest of the story and watched some videos on it, and then when we got previews of MK1, that story looked really good too. But I really, like I said, I really love the stories of MK9, Conquest Mode, stories of MKX. But that was when I really got into story modes on fighting games instead of just like, just playing 1v1 against somebody. Let's see. Yeah, so Mortal Kombat 9, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, even Smash Brothers Brawl. I played those like constantly throughout most of my like junior and senior year of high school. And then after that, I went to college. And once again, I'm a bit out of the FBC. Because I was focused on school mostly. I did have friends bring over their consoles, and I would play newer games like Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Ultimate Street Fighter 4, and then what's another one? Oh, bit of Tekken Tag 2 and Injustice. But it wasn't like as constantly as I did in high school. So I'd say I had a big gap from like 2012 to at least like 2017, 18, where I wasn't like playing video games on a daily basis. So then I get to like 2018, 2019. I'm playing fighting games again, but it's mostly like Smash Bros again. Ultimate mainly, and then a little bit of Tekken 7. But yeah, it's not something I competed in. I would just play for fun. I wasn't even trying to learn any move sets or any inputs. No, I never tried to learn supers or stuff like that. I just button mash. That's just what I was good at. And then we get to about 20, probably 16 actually, is where I visit my first barcade, which is free play. And this is when it only had one location in Richardson, Texas. And I went on a date night, and I played everything as much as I could, like a little bit of pinball, a little bit of like retro games like Pac-Man, Galaga, all that. And then I see the candy caps, and that's the first time I've seen those kind of cabinets before. And I think I played a bit of probably, I think CVS2. I'm like, don't quote me on that, but that's probably not what it is. But I do remember playing some fighting games. I know I played Marvel for sure. So that became just a one-time thing, just going there. But I realized I had a lot of fun, and I'm like, well, I want to go back, more. So it wasn't really like I would go every so often, and then other barcades came along like Cidercade in Dallas, and I would go there a lot to play their games. And it's the same thing where you play a certain fee, everything's set to free to play. There's alcohol, non-alcohol stuff, food. So there was a time when Cidercade took up a lot of my time. And that was just for leisurely time. Like, I wasn't even trying to play like a lot of fighting games. I was just playing all these other games. So around 2019, kind of like mid 2019, I went back to free play because I know one person there, and that would be Lord Michael Beltran. He's, if no one knows, he's a family friend. He's my uncle's best friend. So I went there knowing at least I had one person that I knew there. And he introduced me to Chris Delp, of course. And once again, I figured it was just going to be a one-time thing, just go have fun for a bit. But I realized, like, you know what, like, it's about time that I had a place that is a hangout for me. Because I didn't have like a place where I was a regular, so I figured this place could be somewhere where I can go maybe every other weekend, make some friends there, introduce other friends to it. So I went to technically my first tournament. It was what they used to have called Tuesday Night Fight at Free Play. And this one was in Arlington, Texas, so now they have a second location. And it was for King of Fighters 11. I've never played any King of Fighters, and I knew only one character because everyone knows Terry Bogard. And I was honestly just going to spectate. I wasn't even trying to play in it. I just wanted to watch and hang out with Mike and Chris and other friends I met at the Richardson location that were over there. But I'm sitting at the bar watching teams being put together, watching them set up the stream, and then Chris says, "Oh, you're playing too," and I was like, "What?" Like, I didn't ask for that. I don't know how to play this game. I've never played any King of Fighters in my life, and I only know Terry. He's like, "That's fine. The format is we set you up with a pro. So all teams are set up as one pro and one rookie, basically. So that way all teams are basically even. There's no OP team. So I get teamed up with Jeremy. Shout out to Boat Guy, miss that guy. That's the first time I met him and his brother Josh. Uh, but he teamed me up with Jeremy Withers, and uh, we did it to where I was playing first, and then of course he was the anchor. So somehow, by miracle, we make it all the way to grand finals. And the ironic thing is, we're playing against his brother's team. So it's brother against brother in this grand finals, and they're two very well-known people in that community. So it was very hype, and I actually was very close to winning it all for us because I beat their rookie with my random ass team. I just picked Terry every time and two other random people. And then his brother Josh gets on. I was very close to beating him, but he beat me at the last second. So of course we had to give the people what they want. Brother against brother. Jeremy won it, and that was really cool because like I didn't really think about that whole time about us winning the whole thing. I was just like thinking like, oh my gosh, I hope I survive the next match. But we kept winning. I'm like, oh, I gotta keep playing. Yeah, it was a really fun experience. We got the Tuesday Night Fights belt, took pictures, did an interview after. I actually have that clip still. I saved a lot of pictures from that night and clips from the Twitch channel. And that was technically my first fighting game tournament. And one I wasn't even trying to join. And I will tell you, I've not played that game since. That was not an origin story for being a King of Fighters player. I play it. I definitely play it more now, but I played the other versions. There's so many versions of that game. So yeah, that was my first tournament in 2019, and after that, basically started an adventure of me getting into the fighting game scene of DFW. I was introduced to older games, which I wasn't used to playing. So that was my first time being introduced to games like Super Turbo, Third Strike, CVS 2, the Alpha series, mainly Alpha 3, stuff like that. And I was very intimidated at first because since I didn't really play a lot of older fighting games except for like Mortal Kombat 1 and Marvel Capcom 2, I put in a lot of time into the modern fighting games, you know, with MK9, Marvel 3, Smash Bros, Injustice, stuff like that. So I thought I was just gonna like not even take the older games seriously or even learn anything from them because I thought they were harder. And there is still some truth to that, but I think I've been in this scene of retro fighting games for so long now, it's very, very much less intimidating now. Like, I feel very comfortable playing these games or trying to learn them. And yeah, it was just something that just clicked in my head after I started going to free play and playing all of these retro games on these versus city setups.
Right.
And I was like, well, okay, let me actually learn how to do certain moves with my characters, look up tutorial videos, ask for advice from like the other veteran players there, because a lot of the, no offense to a lot of the free play guys, a lot of them are very much old. They actually like played those games when they came out, and I don't think I was born yet. But yeah, it was really cool to get into something that I used to think was just a very casual thing, just like play for fun, button mash, talk crap, blah blah blah. And then yeah, I started taking it more seriously, and I decided to pick up Cammy as my main in ST, which almost everyone I talked to and met during that time period were like, "What are you thinking? She's not that good of a character. Pick Chun, blah blah blah." But I'm very stubborn with my mains and who I pick, and I'm very anti-Chun. Not that there's anything wrong with that character. She's really cool, but I do try to break that stereotype because you probably know this. Like almost everyone assumes when a girl plays a Capcom game, at least 99% of the time they play Chun, and almost like I'm telling you, almost every time I meet someone new from that scene, and I tell them I play this game, they're like, "Oh, do you play Chun?" And then it used to make me mad, but now it makes me laugh, and then I'm just like, "Nah, I play Cammy." They're like, "Oh, what?"
Well,
like, yeah, like I don't care for Chun.
I mean, well, granted, I mean, technically you're not wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Chun is, I mean, the world's strongest woman in the world. That is self-proclaimed. But I can understand that, you know, you definitely did not want to fall under the stigma of, you know, when it comes to like Third Strike or Second Impact, all women players went towards Chun. I mean, there was diversity that's there, and folks would like to just go to other characters, but you know, I would say, like, even in ST, I mean, it's kind of interesting because a lot of them would kind of gravitate to Chun, but they also could gravitate to Blanca as well. And not only Blanca, like, I would probably say, like, between Chun, Blanca, I'd probably say on a whim Honda as well. So
I was gonna bring that up with Killer Miller, and that's why I love her and I adore her, because you would never think someone like that would pick a sumo wrestler in this game. And then when I met her, like, I met her at the Spring Series, the 2019 one, which was my first really big tournament where, you know, players from everywhere came, and she was there with El Trouble. I met Silent Impact, met you, met Riz, but I was like fangirling over her even though I just met her, because she was really cool. And the funny thing, of course, and the ironic thing is, the next day when the pools were starting, she happened to be my first opponent.
wow.
Yeah, I was like, oh no. And I remember watching videos of her play, like, I think a few weeks before the tournament happened, and it's like, she's gonna kill me. Yeah, she was my first opponent in the ST bracket, and I went on 2, but I gave it my all, and I remember after it was all done, I can breathe again. I get off the stage, you know, everyone's telling me the games, and then the best statement I got, I wish I could remember who told me this, but they said, like, I've never seen anyone take Killer Miller to the edge like that. I was like, really? Like, that's a huge compliment, and I wasn't even playing ST for that long before that tournament, so that definitely gave me a bit of a confidence boost and made me feel a lot better picking the character that I picked, because yeah, a lot of people, like I said, were saying like I would have an uphill battle trying to master Cammy, and And then I met, of course, Silent Scope, who's like my Cammy god, and he was really cool to meet. He gave me some advice that day too, and like I appreciate him a lot because it does show like as long as you're willing to put a lot of hard work into a low tier, that you can like wow people with a lot of your gameplay and still prove that you're not gonna take anything lying down. So yeah, it was really cool to meet all these wonderful players that I didn't think I'd be cool with still. And like you said, we're best friends, and we've been best friends ever since. And you're like a mega star because you're always playing like famous people like Jay Wong. You're playing what's his name? I can't. Yeah, him. But yeah, you're playing like all these big name people, and like everyone knows you. I'm very honored that we're still really good friends. You're friends with a peasant like me.
Well, I do appreciate our really, really close friendship. I mean, yeah, we did met at Spring Series. I'd probably say that was like one of the tournaments that definitely put my foot maybe in the door of recognition. Even though I didn't do too bad. I was tied, ironically, with Killer Miller for 13th. So that was actually, I would probably say, that was like my highest placing until when I went to that was like highest placing until I went to Combo Breaker, and then I got 5th. But overall, yeah, that tournament was something. Like, it was like everybody from around the world that came there. From Japan, you got from Japan, from the Japanese coming there, to from folks from New York, then from folks from New York, you got Canada was there, then you got like people from Cali was there as well, Florida.
Yeah.
It was one of those. It was a special tournament. It was a really, really special tournament. So
that's a good like melting pot, and I felt like there weren't a lot of egos. It was nice.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that definitely came with it, but it was like, it was fun. It was very, very fun overall. That's probably one of my favorite tournaments of all time with that. But, yeah.
Yeah, I have like a really sweet memory of it actually, because it took a while for my parents to come around me going to this arcade every weekend, all weekend, and not getting home till extremely late. So sorry, Mom and Dad, I used to do that to you. I don't do it anymore because I'm always asleep by like 10 o'clock now. I remember promoting the tournament a lot on my social media, mainly on Facebook. I would post the Twitch links for people to watch. I'd say when I'm playing, I'd say how I do. And I actually got it after I played Phil Miller, and then I think I played my friend David after that and got knocked out. My mom texted me actually and asked how I did in the tournament. I was like, "Oh, you watched?" I was like really shocked, but I was like on the verge of crying because like, "Oh, you do care." So that was a really sweet moment for me, that my mom actually asked how the tournament went for me, even though she doesn't understand anything about fighting games. But yeah.
Well, considering I love the introduction right there. I mean, I think you kind of covered two sections that we were gonna talk about, but we covered two sections in terms of your introduction and pretty much which one was your favorite tournament and tournaments that you have attended as well. So within that, right? So let's talk about your third strike rating, right? Now, from what I understand, I know you sort of dropped ST and you picked up third strike because I think you like the game a lot in terms of the mechanics, right?
Yeah.
I want you to take me to your first third strike tournament, right? Explain to me the preparation that you had for getting into third strike, like before your first tournament. What was it? What was it like? What was the preparation like for you?
So I'm gonna take you back a little bit when I started going to free play at first. In Richardson, they had third strike on the Big Blue before they put it into one of the versus cities. So that's actually how I started that game, but I didn't play it a lot because that's when I got into ST. So technically, I started third strike in 2019 just as a casual player, and I only played Ken. And that's when I was still kind of button mashing, but also learning how to play Ken because I knew how to Hadouken, and I was trying to learn how to Shoryu. But I remember playing that like when I got tired of ST after a while, I'd go to Big Blue, play some third strike, and a lot of people were actually impressed with my Ken gameplay, and I would win a lot in a row, and I was like, I don't even know this game well. So anyways, so fast forward to when I started considering third strike as like my main fighting game. I want to say it was definitely after everything was sort of back to normal after COVID. Like especially during COVID and everything on lockdown, we relied heavily on online gameplay. So I remember getting on the Street Fighter 30th anniversary on PlayStation with a few of the free play guys. We would play Super Turbo, but we'd switch to Alpha 3 sometimes, and also Third Strike. But yeah, once everything was opened back up again, I kind of like, I still was into SP at that time because I remember we had Wrestling Wednesdays at Free Play Richardson where we would play for titles for certain games, and I was actually the ST champ, women's ST champ, so to be specific, for like many weeks in a row. Eventually I got dethroned, and it was actually a back and forth a lot for that title. I lost it and won it and lost it a lot. But then, I don't know, I noticed I wasn't really getting any better, but I wasn't getting worse. I was just kind of stuck. And I just kept thinking, like, well, I'm doing the best I can, and I know I am, but anytime I'm playing in these ST tournaments now, mainly Sundays, there's not really much progress, and I felt like I wasn't really having fun anymore. And that wasn't anybody's fault. No one, like, said anything to me. It was mostly just an internal thing, like, okay, if I know I'm not getting better, and I know I'm not wanting to practice as much anymore, maybe I should move on to something else. So then I tried Third Strike again, but in Candy Cab, this time instead of Big Blue. And I remember actually practicing a lot with Ken and learning inputs and watching people play and asking 10 players advice. So I find myself playing Counter Strike more and more, and ST less and less. So then I started going to Free Play Arlington a lot, almost every Friday, because Mike B got a job there as a DJ for Friday night. And so I would take the drive out there because it's a little bit farther from me, about like 35, 40-minute drive. So I would go there every weekend, and I noticed a lot of either friends from FTR were there, or people I have met at FTA who were regulars there. They were all playing Strike, and they were playing the one game, if you lose, get off. And I would join them on Friday nights playing that. And then Chris and Arthur brought back the Third Strike monthlies. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna try this out now. It's also on Sundays. It's only once a month. So let me try it out. And I guess technically those were my first Third Strike tournaments, even though they were super small. Mostly all the bracket consisted of the regulars. So I mean, I like playing Ken, but then I'm like, let me shop around a bit, see if I like any of the other characters, and maybe I can get better with any of them. So I actually became a Dudley main for like a minute, because I actually loved him in Street Fighter 4. That's where I was first introduced to him. But that wasn't working out because I'm used to characters who kick with the kick button. and it was weird trying to adjust to him punching with the kick button, and I'm like, okay, this is not working out. I tried Akuma for a bit because I'm like, let me just try another Toto character, and of course everyone told me like, yeah, his health isn't great. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is not working out. I need something else. So I saw Elena, and I've seen people play her before, and I was like, oh, she reminds me a lot of Eddie Gordo, who I used to play in Tekken all the time, and I also played a lot of Chrissy in Tekken 5. So like, this is perfect. It's a match made for me. So I picked her up after a while, and she was like the character I felt that changed my gameplay a lot, because I actually put a lot of hours into practicing with her at home and at the arcade. I asked advice of people. I had people practice online with me. I practiced against computers, and I like actually looked up like gameplay too in tutorials. And it also helped that my current boyfriend, Brian, he has this like old guide, like physical guide of Third Strike, and he sent me pictures of a lot of Elena's movesets and combos. So like, I had a lot of help, and I felt like I didn't get that too much with ST. And it's not that no one helped me, but when I thought about it, I'm like, well, to be fair, I picked the character in ST that not many people play, and it's kind of hard to get assistance with a low tier like that, unless you're like a very specific player, like, you know, like mainly like, you know, Silent Scope or Jack Tia. So I think that was the difference for me and why I stuck with Third Strike, because not only did I have a lot of help from like various sources, I actually put time every weekend and sat down on the cabin, just played and played, and um, just actually focused and took it seriously. So I'd say that was best executed at Jazzy Finale Season 3 when it was at Free Play Arlington. And I practiced a lot leading up to that weekend. And I would say, like, that was probably the most nervous I was. More nervous than I was at Spring Series. Because, like, it's actually, like, a game that I felt very passionate about and knew what I was capable of. So that weekend definitely was a game changer in terms of my, I guess, sort of fighting game career. And I will say, like, unfortunately, like, the nerves did get to me that Saturday, and I went 0-2. I was not in the right headspace. I was very nervous. I didn't play my best, but like my favorite part of that weekend actually was not the last chance qualifier. It was that same night, way later in the evening. They were still streaming. They decided to do generals. So I was on Team 5-star, and it was my turn to be up. I was playing against a Chun. Unfortunately, I can't remember his name, but he was beating people. Like, I think he beat maybe 3 or 4 in a row before I got to him. And like in my head, I was like, "Oh my god, this is gonna go bad." But then at the same time, I'm like, "No, you've had a lot of Chun practice because current boyfriend is a Chun main." So shout out to him for giving me all that Chun practice. I was very much prepared, and I won the first round, and then I won the second round, and it was over, and I popped off, and everyone, like, I've never heard so much cheering for me before, and everyone went wild, the crowd went wild, and yeah, I popped off. I jumped up the chair shouting like, "Oh my god, did that really happen? I'm gonna cry." It was the greatest moment ever, and I still have that pinned on my Twitter, that clip, because it's like it. I look back at that a lot, and it, like, especially when I'm like feeling unconfident about my gameplay with Third Strike, I always look back at that and think like, "Oh no, you did that. You showed everyone that you can be a threat in this game." Yeah, unfortunately, Keychain was up after that, and his Urian kicked my ass. But it was still like, a good time, and that was a moment that I can keep for myself, and it's just for me. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, I did remember that moment. That was a pretty amazing moment. Internet breaking, that's what you were doing. So it was pretty dope that what you were doing, and I will say that I am very proud upon how far you have gotten. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, there's no stopping at this point. I mean, I know for a fact that you are still putting in the work as it is. So I guess it's just only the matter of, once you keep putting in the work, obviously the work will show in your play. And time again, it has. So at the end of the day, you have to just kind of remember also that, it's not a sprint, so it's more like a marathon at this point. So
Yeah.
you keep you keep grinding to become really good at your own pace. There's no rushing into things or anything. So, I mean, I'm happy. I'm really happy for you that you are, you're killing it pretty much in the third strike scene with Elena at this point. Not a lot of people play Elena, but there are some really dope Elenas out there besides yourself, as it is. But
Yeah. I like to be unique, as you can tell, with
oh
who
yeah,
I play in these games.
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So appreciate you telling me about the tournaments and what was your favorite, what was your best moment, pretty much all tied into one. All right, let's talk about the fighting game community, right? Now, let's have a simple question. It could be a very short one, right? Do you kind of look into today's fighting game community stuff that goes on and everything like that?
I'd say so, yeah. I definitely keep my eyes and ears open on it, and even though I'd say, like, as of today, I am not as active as I was. Like, I will blame my job for that. But like, even though I'm not as active as I was like over a year ago, I still keep up. I watch all the major tournaments. I've watched CEO. I watched Evo Japan, the recent Evo in Las Vegas. I watched Jazzy Finale. I have a lot of friends who are going to these big tournaments. So I do keep up with them, and a lot of them stream on their own Twitch, so I'll watch that way too. So it's kind of like, in a way, I'm living through them. But besides that, like, I do keep up with YouTube. Like, I watch J-Wong videos, I watch Smug videos. I'll watch your streams, I'll watch Riz's streams, I'll watch Silent Scope streams. Yeah, I'm still in a way involved, but like, more like, I'm a watcher now more.
I see. So basically, it's like you're seeing from the outside in, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not totally out of the loop. I'm just like not as part of it anymore.
Alright.
But that doesn't mean like, like I'm completely retired or anything. There's no R word. There's no retirement. I'm just taking it easy.
I feel you on that. That's a very good way of saying it. So, seeing that you keep your eyes and ears close to the ground, shout out to Prop Joe from The Wire with that. Tell me, so what do you think? What are your thoughts of today's FGC? Like, what do you feel like? What do you feel about nowadays with the latest Street Fighter, the latest SPC? What do you see what's happening that's different from what you know before till now? What do you see that's different? And
I see.
And before you answer that, I want you to tell me at this perspective of a woman, like a competitor as a woman, actually, because my follow-up question besides that is there are women players that is out there, right? I mean, I just want to see your thoughts in terms of what do you think of today's competitive scene and everything as a whole.
I'd say the difference now is there's more and more younger players now. I felt like a few years ago when I was starting to get into it, no offense to like my friends or anything, but it was mostly a bunch of middle-aged people playing this game. Some youngins here and there, but I feel like as of today, like especially in Third Strike, there's so many young players that aren't even like out of their teens yet, and they're really good, and they put a lot of time into this game. So I'd say that's a big difference I've been seeing in the fighting game community. And then with modern games, that's a bit hard to speak on because I haven't. I'd say the last like modern fighting game I played like off and on was Tekken 7. Um, but like after that, I mean I tried Street Fighter 5. I couldn't really get into it. It was fine, but like nothing spoke to me more than Street Fighter 4 did. And then as I've told you recently, I tried Street Fighter 6 finally,
Yeah.
and actually had a lot of fun with it. So I'm actually considering trying to pick that up now. Um, I just have to get used to the I guess the gameplay of it because I'm used to all these older games with kind of faster movement, and this game is not as fast. At least that's how it feels to me. Um, so like, but that's the cool thing about a lot of these ongoing fighting game franchises is there's always like new ones coming out, and that brings more uh young players being introduced to these like legacy characters basically, and then it can be a gateway for them to be introduced to what came before it. And that's actually that's really cool to me because you kind of always assume, especially like with um, millennials and the Gen Z uh, kids, like you assume that they're only going to be into nothing but modern games like Fortnite and Call of Duty and all these whack games, and then there comes another new Street Fighter or another new Mortal Kombat, Tekken, Smash Bros, and they get into it, but like it warms my heart when I see teenagers getting into ST or Third Strike or Marvel, and it's really cool. But I feel like that's definitely gotten bigger ever since, and but that's like I think that's the biggest difference I've seen with the current FGC so far.
See, well, it has definitely changed a lot. Street Fighter with the newer directors nowadays, they are like aiming for, I mean, not only a younger audience, but they are aiming for like more of the casual audience as well. Because I feel like and this is the thing, I feel like one of the biggest things nowadays is, there was an old saying about the old guard is still guarding the sacred land of Street Fighter. But now, with today's FGC and everything that I see in my eyes, right? You're absolutely right. There are like a lot of younger folks that's getting into the game, especially like for Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo and 3S. Like you would think that. I mean, for 3S, I would still consider. Well, at this point right now, and this is my thought about it, I think 3S is in the same seat right now that ST was in like a couple years ago, I would say, where ST was like, when it was it had its tournament 11 Legend Circuit and everything like that. It was like the game. It was like the one retro game to watch. But now with Third Strike, the Jazzy Circuit, which kind of adopted that same idea, right? Mm-hmm. Now you have the Jazzy Circuit, and then now the Jazzy Circuit is cultivating into one big tournament. You have its circuit, it is cultivated to one big tournament that's landed pretty much like it happened. I mean, it pretty much happened in Texas as well. Yep. And now it's like you saw what happened this past Evo, where you had like over what almost 1,100 participants for certain events,
Yeah.
which was
Crazy.
incredible. I mean,
Mhm.
I feel like you had all these people that gets into it, and you have all these guys that get into the retro games nowadays, which is pretty awesome to see. Especially now,
Mhm.
like the big people that's getting into like Smug is getting into retro. Then you have Shine and a couple of other folks that's getting into some retro gaming as well. I mean, some of them kind of put it as content creation, but it kind of puts the eyes on the games as well because it's pretty big. It's pretty awesome that they're doing that. But
Mhm.
I would say, like overall, I would agree with you that it does warm my heart to see like the younger audience does come to the retro. But Street Fighter Six is like I would say it's probably one of the best Street Fighter games ever at this point because the release was right, the aim
Mhm.
for the audience is right, and they're doing it the right way. They got like directors who not only forgot where they came from with their roots in their classic games, but they're seeking to just look more towards the future, and they're gonna keep pushing Street Fighter 6 to greater heights. And at this point right now, if you saw it before, now within the FGC, there's a possibility that it could be in the Olympics now. So because it got
Oh.
approved for esports in the Olympics now. So that's a pretty
Oh,
big
I did not know that.
yeah, it's a pretty big deal now. So I would say like the FGC is still like I want to say it's in a good spot, but it's like not it's not in a great spot. Only because I feel like there's still a lot of work to be done to get to where that is, but we'll see. Especially women players. Like I would love to see a lot more women players. Like there are some women players. I would say shout out to the combo queens, right? They are out there and they are killing it. And
Yeah.
one of the person that I know personally that kind of is one of the I want to say like the founding women, which is Aziza Brown, and she's really cool. And I saw like VODs and everything of the combo queens, and they are killing it. So in like retrospect, I would say like more women players are definitely amazing to see. So like I said, I think it's in a good place, but I think it still needs some work to get to where it needs to get towards. But the esports is evolving. That's what I will say.
Yeah. No, I agree. I would like to see more women players. I feel like I have seen a bit of a rise in that, just
Hmm.
a little slightly. Um, with a lot of the majors I've been watching, like mainly with I'd say the Third Strike uh Evo recently. I think that's like personally the most women players I've seen on a stream um for that game and probably in general. Um, but yeah, there is as a woman, I can say there is still a bit of a stigma with being a woman in FGC. Um, Not too much, but it does feel like there are times where it kind of feels like, well, you gotta play like this if you want to hang with the big boys, basically. And yeah, it can be pretty intimidating. And I'll admit, like, I felt like that a lot of times. And I do think it's normal too, because, you know, like, there are women gamers. I mean, hell, like, Twitch is full of them, but a lot of them, like, it's like it's like more like um, mainstream type games, that they play.
Hmm.
Rarely any fighting games. So, and I think it's like I said. I think where we're at in the FGC with women players is good because, like I said, I feel like I've seen a leap of that since like a few years back.
Right.
But yeah, it could definitely be better. Um, and yeah, like I always love seeing like other girls playing the games I'm playing in, and I mean, I'll admit for like the small DFW third strike scene, it was a bit like for lack of a better term, sausage fest. uh, and there was like one or two girls, including me, sometimes three. The majority, yeah, it's guys, and I did feel like I had to prove myself more and put just as much work in with my gameplay as any of the other guys who played this game since it first came out or during the um, Xbox 360 days. And yeah, it can be it can be a little hard. But I like to think that if anything, and this took me a long time to learn, just play for yourself. You know, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't owe anyone anything. Like, as long as you feel confident in your gameplay and feel like you did the best you could in a tournament or anything else, really, then that's really all that matters. And I'd say, like, after I took that pressure off myself, like, I've definitely had a better time playing these games than I did before.
That's good. That's good.
Mhm.
Well, I appreciate that message, even though that was going to be the last section of the conversation. But I appreciate that's that message there, and it's true. You do play for
Yeah.
yourself. You don't play for others, and that is probably the most important thing that you should do. Always play for yourself, and always be comfortable in terms of how you play. And also, if I can tell people, it's okay to lose, right? Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm still working. For me, I mean, you know how I am. I'm still
Mhm.
working on practicing what I'm preaching in terms of that. Like I do follow what I say, but I would say like the losing aspect, I'm still like working on that for sure. But I do. But playing for yourself, that's definitely like the most important thing to learn is just to pay for yourself only and don't
Yeah.
focus on the outside noise afterwards, because if you try to focus outside you'll never learn, and
Mhm.
you'll end up just getting scatterbrained. So
Yeah.
in hindsight it's okay, but
Exactly.
I do appreciate that message that you did give.
Mhm.
So now that we talked about the FGC, let's move to the last portion of of this conversation, right? My question is, what do you? I'm gonna give you a two-part question, right? What do you
Mhm.
what do you see is gonna happen within the next 5 years in terms of the fighting game community? And that's question one. And question two is pretty much in the next 5 years, what are your future goals?
Ooh, okay. Um. So for the first question, I think I see the FGC like outgrowing itself in terms of like there are a lot of franchises that have been going on for like 30 plus years, and as long as the money's there, I don't see anything stopping from these companies from pumping out like new games every few years or so. Um, but I see like each game getting better than the last. Like Hence, like you said, Street Fighter 6 is really good, and after I finally played it myself, I can definitely say the same thing. Like, it's a really good game. Um, Now, like, I can only speak on that. Like, with other games, like Tekken 8 or Mortal Kombat 1, I haven't played. But, like, the thing is, it, these games are gonna keep attracting, like, new players or people who are very dedicated to these franchises ever since they were a kid. Because, like, when you're an adult, you want to keep that, that childhood spark in you. And, like, if playing these games does it, then you're going to keep playing them. But, yeah, I see the FGC is growing, like, even more, especially in, like, newer fighting games. Like, either continuing franchises or new ones. For the retro part of it, it's hard to say, but like as I've seen Third Strike get bigger, especially with the 1,000+ entrants at Evo, it shows that this game's definitely not going away. The popularity of it's not going away. So I wouldn't be surprised if eventually, like, there'll be like way more entrants, and like even if it's not at Evo next year or any other year, like or any other tournaments like Jazzy, like there's always gonna be a lot of players in it, and it's gonna be people who are gonna learn it for the first time and keep going with it. But yeah, I do see the FGC not dying out anytime soon. As long as we have like content creators there to talk about it. So like you, Riz, Dustin Wong, Maximilian, Smug, like all these people, like to keep it as an active topic. I think that'll still help it a lot too. And then the second question, my goals. I do have big goals for me. One of them is definitely like eventually. I don't know which one yet. There's so many to choose from, but I would love to attend like my first big major tournament. I've yet to travel for a tournament of any kind, or even go to any of like the big ones. There's always like some conflicting schedule that goes on, so like it would be nice to eventually like start small. Like I definitely want to go to Showdown first. I always hear great things about that tournament. But yeah, start small with that because it's in my neighborhood basically, and then move up from there to like tournaments like Frosty Faustings, which I've always been interested in. CEO, and then even though I already attended one Jazzy Circuit finale, it was here. I eventually want to go to the one that's been in Colorado the past couple years. So that'd be nice to go to, and probably the biggest goal. I would say I was inspired after watching the tournament recently, but I would really like to attend Evo. Of course, I've never been, but that would probably be the biggest like end game for me would be Evo. And like I think personally for me, I wouldn't even like worry about how I play. I'd just be like, holy shit, I'm at Evo. Me, this girl from Rockwall, Texas. I don't know how many people have heard of that place, but they know me. But yeah, that would be like the biggest one to do. Hopefully earlier than 5 years. I'm hoping at least in the next 2 years. Yeah, all of this involves planning and saving money and of course a lot of practicing. Um, so yeah, I'd say that all my goals.
I got you. Well, that's some
And I
pretty.
guess to also get more recognized, like I'd say a lot of people recognize my tag now, and it's always fun when people do. But it's like I want people to know Tigerlily92 on like a global scale.
Well, it will get there. Believe me when I tell you this.
Mm.
It's funny for me. I still can't believe to this day that I'm globally recognized in a way.
Yeah.
I I can't believe it. I still tell you to this day in our conversations. I still can't believe it. And
I know.
I don't know. It's like I would say like I had that exact same dream in terms of being globally recognized. And here I am, you know, July 30th, 2024, recognized in like everywhere. Whether it's like from the U.S. Whether it's from the U.S. to South America, then from South America to Europe to Japan, like they know me also, and then
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy. And the recognition is like I kind of fall on. It's kind of weird. Like I have that dream, right? I have that dream of being recognized, and now like you kind of got it. It's like, man, I don't even want it no more. It's like not that I don't want. It's like not that I don't want to be recognized, because I feel like I want to be recognized for not only geek play, but just for just being myself. You know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much for me is the most important thing. Just me being Anthony Megaman X6, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what matters to me. And I mean, you know my personality. I'm like pretty fun. I'm pretty fun. I'm funny. Pretty smart and all that kind of good stuff. But in your case, I am happy that you are aiming to start going to these You start going to the tournaments. It's never. The funny thing is, it's never too late to actually go to these tournaments because they are gonna be there. I mean, we did lost a good. I want to say like a good chunk we lost, but the ones that are there now, like you described, like Evo, CEO, Combo Breaker, those are like quite a few that you want to go to get that real good tournament experience in terms of there, because thousands and thousands of people are going to be there. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things that it's very almost overwhelming at first, but then once you soak it all in, it becomes a lot easier to just go. So
Oh, for sure. And it's like you can only want to play the same people over and over. It's like, okay, I wanna test this out with outsiders eventually.
exactly. I mean, technically, You did technically get your first taste, even though it was still in your backyard. But in Spring Series, it was like it was 100 and what? It was like 110 entrants.
Yeah, it was a packed
So
house.
it was kind of amazing. So
Yep.
in hindsight, I am proud of you that you definitely are aiming to get out to more tournaments though in the future. So that's pretty awesome. So now that we answered all that and we kind of went through the Tigerlily92 story, tell me what's your final thoughts before we go?
Final thought. That's a tough one. I guess sort of repeating with the whole thing, like say for yourself, but also it's like perfection is definitely something you don't need to strive for. And I definitely struggled with that for a long time when I got a taste of what it's like to be like an actual fighting gamer and dedicated to a certain scene or other scenes. And um yeah, that pressure gets a lot to you, but after after you let it go, like it really becomes a fun game. Like any game you play, it becomes fun again. And um it's like, yeah, you can still play to get better and have goals for yourself. But yeah, in the end, like if you're having fun and a good time and still laughing through everything and smiling through it all, then yeah, it's definitely worth keeping up with. And that's what I do nowadays. And I adore all the friends that have helped me along this whole journey ever since I started playing like fighting games religiously again. And I'm happy to have kept a lot of these lifelong friendships, even though I'm not as active in fighting games as I used to be. Um, but yeah, I love all fighting games, almost all of them. But uh, it's definitely part of me and my personality, and I would not change that for anything.
Good. Don't ever change, please. Never change. Never change. You keep being you.
Yeah.
Definitely keep being you. So, you got any shout outs you want to give?
Ooh, let's see. Well, shout outs to you. I say you're my bestie, and like I never thought I'd be really good friends with a celebrity besides Mike B. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about myself and my fighting game journey. Um, Appreciate you a lot. Shout out to definitely the free play, which gave me basically gave me all the tools and resources to even start like taking fighting games seriously. I really don't know what I'd be like where I'd be without them. Um, Shout outs to my big brother Steven. As I said in my little origin story, he's the reason I even got into fighting games. He's my original rival, so to say. So love him to death. So shout outs to him. Um, Shout out to uh, definitely my boyfriend. uh, like I said, he was my teacher for a while when it came to Third Strike, and definitely still the biggest teacher for that and other fighting games we play together. So I wouldn't know where I'd be without him either. And I'm happy to have him in my corner all the time, and definitely my biggest cheerleader at tournaments, and the same for him. So I love you, babe.
Aw.
Um, and then let's see. Shout out to myself. I am also my biggest fan. So I shout outs to me and still like playing these games these years later and keeping up as much as I can and like still having fun with it and making all kinds of friends along the way. But really, fighting games do bring you together.
Definitely does. Definitely does. Well, let me tell you this. Definitely shout out to you. I do appreciate you being a part of this episode. Definitely thought about you being on here because, I mean, regardless of biasness and anything like that, I feel like I was very interested to see really how you really got into everything. And it's everything that after hearing what you're telling me, it's everything that I really thought and then some, which was very interesting. So I do appreciate you telling me your story, and I do appreciate you telling your story to those who are going to be watching this video. So
Yeah.
it pleases me that you on this. So you got any socials for them to follow you?
Yeah, I'm looking them up right now. So for those on for those on Twitter, although it's X, but I still call it Twitter, you can find me at capital T Tiger, capital L Lily 1992. I'm on there. I'm also on Discord. Um, although I don't know what my name is on here. Can you see what it is? Oh wait,
Can
I
I
think I
can
found
I
it.
see what your name is? All right, let's look together. So your
Yeah.
name on Discord, it literally is Tigerlily92.
Okay. Yeah, it's that. But I'd say those are the only two I'll give out. My Facebook and my Snapchat are personal. Um, if you know me and you don't have me on either of those, you can ask Megaman to give you my link to either of those. But
I mean, you
those
can
are
I mean, you
those.
can call me by my first.
Oh,
You can call me by my first name. You know,
and
every
Anthony.
yeah, everybody or Ant. Everybody calls me pretty much Ant or Anthony, but
I always call you Anthony. I never call you Ant.
I know.
'Cause you're larger than life. You're no ant size.
Giant ant. That's what I am.
And then also I forgot one more. There's also Instagram. That one's a interesting one as well. Give me a sec to look that up. Cause you wouldn't believe how many people actually have Tigerlily92 as their like usernames for a lot of these socials. And of course it's one of those things where it's like, oh well, like someone already has that. You gotta change it. Add a capital letter, add a number. It's really annoying.
Sheesh.
But there actually is like another Tigerlily92. So yeah, Instagram. I'm also Tigerlily92, but that is all lowercase. You can find me on there. You'll mostly see me sharing a lot of things to my story, like a lot of cute things. So you're gonna be annoyed.
Yeah, like you have a lot of stories. Until this day, I still question how did you even have all these stories, which is amazing. But
I
I'm not.
follow a lot of people.
I don't argue. I don't argue. Um,
Yeah.
I do have one question. You kind of was streaming before. Have you kind of just retired from streaming?
uh, yeah, I'd say so. I guess cause like it wasn't like I didn't end it on like a bad note or anything. It was just starting to wear me out, and since I had a job, it was kind of hard to find time to stream and also not be so tired for work. Um, because I realized like a lot of my friends who do stream right now, it's kind of like their main source of income, because so they have all the time in the world to stay up late and do all this streaming, and I'm like, yeah, I don't. And also, it's like I also didn't have the like better equipment that they had. Like I always streamed straight from my PS4, and I mean that was good enough for me. It was good enough to finally get me to affiliate status. But yeah, like I realized and I learned early that if you take a break, like a long break, you come back. Um, yeah, not many of those people will follow you anymore or subscribe to you. So yeah, it's like you kind of have to be consistent, which I wasn't, but I needed a break. So yeah, and I mean, the main ones that stuck around were like my super close friends that I met through Twitch. But other than that, it's like I was just like, I think I'm like just wanting to play like with friends like privately. Like I don't really care to have like whatever 7 people that watched all the time to have them watch me play Overwatch or whatever anymore. I mean, I think if I ever get an actual like big setup, like desktop screens and like actual like um this equipment for this, better camera, microphone, and an actual gaming chair. I've never had one in my life. Uh, Maybe I'll come back, but I don't see that happening for a long time. Um, but I don't mind being on other friends' streams who like they stream constantly. They're always playing the games I do, so I can be a guest, but I can't say that I'll be on my own stream. But it's still there. Like I've been seeing videos recently of like I couldn't believe like I took videos of all my Overwatch highlights and my plays of the game and like damn, I was really good actually. And I'm sure if I ever get back into Overwatch, I'm like it'll be like I never really left, but I've watched like updates recently, all these new characters. I'm like, who the hell are these people? I don't recognize any of these new characters. I'm so out of the loop. Um,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, so
there is always the Overwatch lookalike in Marvel Rivals. So also that
I don't know
too.
what that is.
You really don't know what Marvel Rivals what it is?
No.
All right, so we're gonna save that for another conversation. But thank
Off camera,
off,
off the record.
yeah, off the record, off the record, because I might yell, but yeah,
Yeah, man.
yeah. But once again, thank you so much for being on this episode, Miss Lauren. It's greatly an honor that you get to share your story,
It
and
was a pleasure.
I thank you so much again. And folks, for those who want to follow Tiger Lily, her socials will be in the description. So thank you all for watching another episode of Mega Man Legends, and you will see another episode pretty soon. So everyone, take care, have a good night, and be safe. You want to say bye too?
I did. Bye.
All right. Good night, everyone, and thank you all.
Thank you.